Chapter 5. The Leap. I'd spent weeks immersed in lucid dreaming research, fascinated by the science behind it. The way brainwaves shifted with each stage of consciousness felt less like magic and more like tuning a radio to the perfect frequency. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift that brought everything into focus. Theta waves, slow and deep at 4 to 8 hertz, dominate dreams, while beta waves, fast and sharp, buzz through waking minds at up to 30 hertz. It was a rhythm, a pattern, something tangible I could grasp in a world that often felt mythical and uncontrollable. My research had become an obsession, consuming me night after night. Mornings blurred into evenings as I devoured everything I could find. Articles, forums, and endless videos. I wasn't just scratching the surface anymore. I dived deep into the advanced techniques in Lucidology 101. Clear, methodical steps that promised results with dedicated practice. Bautista, in her own way, tried to understand. One night, she came into the room, holding her phone.
So I watched this video about lucid dreaming.
She began, her tone light but her intent serious.
Apparently, if you look at your hands in a dream, they'll look strange and it helps you realize you're dreaming. Maybe I'll start carrying a mirror to double check my reflection too.
I glanced at her, unable to stop the faint smile tugging at my lips. That's not how it works. Don't oversimplify it.
You're right.
She said, her tone dipping into playful exaggeration.
Maybe the reflections would look silly.
I shook my head, my amusement fading as I turned back to my computer. Thanks for trying, Jezza, but this isn't something you can just pick up on a whim. Her expression faltered, the humor slipping away.
I wanted to help.
I know, I said softly, not looking at her. The air between us felt heavier. She stepped closer.
You can't fix everything by diving into this. It's like you're avoiding everything else.
I need to figure this out, I murmured. She shook her head, a sad smile on her lips.
Maybe, but don't forget there's more to life.
Before leaving, she placed our Bible on my desk, a silent reminder of what I'd turned away from. Leaving the church was also a wound that hadn't healed. I remembered the warmth of the Sunday gatherings, the way the sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, painting the pews in hues of red, green, and gold. I remembered the sense of community and the comforting routine that made everything feel right. There was the minister's gentle voice during evening prayers, the potluck dinners where everyone brought a piece of themselves to share, and the laughter of children playing in the courtyard. It wasn't just a place, it was a part of who I was. Walking away had felt like tearing out a piece of my soul, leaving behind a hollow space that I didn't know how to fill. Those routines and the sense of belonging, it was all gone. I'd walked away, but sometimes it felt more like I'd been cast out. I buried that ache in research, meditation, waking without moving, falling asleep with intention. These steps demanded discipline, not faith, and discipline was all I had. The video instructor made it sound simple, like unlocking a door, but every night felt like a struggle. Attempts left me frustrated, nights restless, and mornings filled with fragmented dreams. Every night felt like a struggle, an exhausting fight against my mind. But tonight I refused to give up. Lying on my bed, I focused on my breathing. Cars passed outside. A crow cawed. They were there, but I didn't really hear them. In through the nose, hold. Out through the mouth. The day's weight lifted as my thoughts settled. The process was simple. Meditate until sleep. Wake up in a daze. Intent to lucid dream. I had already set the alarm for 3 a.m. and as I laid down, I felt a strange sense of calm. If this didn't work, it wouldn't be from lack of trying. The alarm jolted me awake. 3:33 a.m. The glowing numbers burned into my vision. A shiver ran down my spine, but I stayed still, muscles taut like coiled springs. Keep the body asleep, wake the mind. The mantra looped in my head, I will lucid dream. With each repetition, the tension in my body began to fade. Slowly, the edges of consciousness blurred and I felt myself drifting. The faint hum of the clock softened into the background, the mantra folding into the rhythm of my breath as sleep crept back in. When I opened my eyes, the world had changed. I stood in an endless field of grass, the blades swaying gently in a breeze I couldn't feel. The sky above was pale and featureless, a flat expanse of gray that stretched infinitely in every direction. There was no wind, just an eerie stillness. I could hear my breathing, steady but loud against the rustle of the grass as it swayed gently. "This is a dream," I said aloud, testing the weight of the words. My voice echoed across the emptiness, a grin spread across my face. I raised my hands, turning them over, counting my fingers, 7. A laugh bubbled out of me, quick and breathless. The excitement was electric, but with it came a warning tug at the edges of my awareness, the faint pull of wakefulness. What if I lost control again? I couldn't afford to wake up now, not when I was so close. I had to stay calm. Don't overdo it, I reminded myself. Too much, too fast, and I'd snap out of the dream. I steadied my breathing, the laugh fading into a smile as I let the thrill settle into something I could hold on to. This was it. I was in. I willed Max into the dream first. The grass shimmered, and from its depths Max appeared, bounding toward me. His fur glistened and his eyes sparkled with a familiar, unwavering love I had missed so deeply. Memories surged forward. The last time I had done this, lucid dreaming, Max had always been by my side, a faithful companion in the dreamscape. I dropped to my knees, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes as his weight hit me. His tail wagged furiously as he licked my face. His warm breath and the familiar musk of his coat were so achingly real. "Max," I whispered, my voice breaking, "I've missed you so much." He barked, a joyous sound that filled the emptiness, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. I buried my fingers in his fur, feeling the soft, thick texture I'd thought I'd never feel again. But then, a shadow of doubt crossed my mind. This wasn't real. Max was gone. My chest tightened as I remembered the truth, and the joy began to fracture. "You're not really here, are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. Max tilted his head. His expression didn't change, and I knew I had to let him go. With a deep, steadying breath, I closed my eyes. "Thank you," I whispered. When I opened them, Max was gone. The space where he had stood now filled with gently swaying grass. My heart ached, but I felt a quiet, bittersweet peace. He was still with me, just not here. "I will find you," I said, the words carrying both resolve and longing into the open air. The grass stretched endlessly around me, beautiful in its simplicity, but it felt incomplete. My gaze settled on the horizon and a fleeting thought crossed my mind. Mountains. I want mountains. I was curious, what could I do here? The clouds gathered, darkening and swirling with a quiet intensity. Slowly, jagged peaks emerged, their rocky faces cutting into the sky. I watched, breathless, as the barren landscape transformed, my curiosity turning into awe. I started running toward the mountains, the jagged peaks calling to me like a challenge. The grass blurred beneath my feet as a new thought emerged. What if I could fly? I jumped, soaring higher than I ever could in real life. But at the peak of my ascent, I felt gravity tugging at me, pulling me back toward the ground. A sense of panic surged through me, and I flinched, straining with every ounce of willpower to break free. Then, suddenly, I shot upward, the wind rushing past me, cool and exhilarating. The wind roared as I surged through the sky, the ground rolling away beneath in a blur of green. I dipped lower, grazing just above the swaying grass. The sensation was exhilarating, a rush that begged me to throw myself into it completely. But I couldn't lose myself, not yet. I steadied my breath, letting the thrill simmer just beneath the surface. Each motion felt deliberate as I tilted and glided toward the jagged peaks ahead. The mountains loomed closer, their rocky faces carved with shadows and streaked with light. I traced the slopes with my flight, weaving through the air in smooth arcs. The cool breeze against my skin felt more real than I could have imagined. I stayed focused, keeping the exhilaration in check. The freedom was intoxicating, but I reminded myself this was still a dream. Too much, and it would all slip away. I felt the need to stop, to take a break from the exhilaration of the flight. Without thinking, I let myself drift downward, landing randomly at the peak of a mountain. When I finally touched the ground, I noticed them. People. Their movements were blurry and indistinct, as if they barely tethered themselves to the surrounding space. I couldn't say where they'd come from. Maybe they'd been here all along, their presence tied to this place as naturally as the jagged rocks beneath my feet. But among them, one figure stood out. She was different. Her long, curly hair shimmered, catching the muted light impossibly. Her face was sharp, vivid, like someone had drawn her in fine detail, while the others remained smudges in the background. There was something familiar about her. Her eyes, though intense, held a flicker of something, recognition, maybe even regret. It was as if she knew me not just from these dreams, but from somewhere deeper, somewhere real. The resemblance tugged at the edges of my mind like a forgotten memory trying to resurface. She started walking toward me, her steps slow and intentional. I felt her presence in a way I couldn't explain, like she wasn't just part of the dream, but something more. But I didn't stay. The thrill of the dream pulled me away. And with a single thought, I launched into the sky again, the ground disappearing beneath me. I thought about the moon, a fleeting wild idea, and before I could second guess it, I was already there. It was instant. The moon was stark and impossibly quiet. Dust rose softly around my feet as I landed, settling slowly in the low gravity. My breath caught in my chest as I looked around. There was a strange stillness here, an emptiness that felt almost sacred. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint crunch of lunar dust beneath my feet. I felt insignificant, a single speck in an endless universe, but somehow also powerful, standing here where few could ever dream to be. Craters stretched out in all directions, their edges sharp and shadowed, carving the barren landscape into something both desolate and beautiful. For the first time in the dream, I didn't feel the urge to move or test my power. I just wanted to exist in this moment. Above me, Earth hung suspended in the blackness, glowing faintly, a fragile blue marble against the endless void. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I stood there, frozen in awe. The scale of it all, the silence, the sheer impossibility of being here, it was overwhelming. But the stillness didn't last. My curiosity, it always did this, itched at the edges of my thoughts, breaking through the fragile calm. I couldn't help myself. If I could create mountains and fly, what else could I do? I raised my hand, testing the limits of this new power. What can I do here? I thought of meteors. At first, there was nothing. Then, in the distance, the sky erupted in light. Fire streaked across the darkness. Fiery rocks crashing into the surface one by one. The ground trembled beneath me. I smiled, exhilarated, as more meteors rained down, the impact shaking the moon's surface. But the smile didn't last. So the meteors came faster, closer, until the ground splintered beneath me. The dream spiraled out of control, slipping from my grasp. I tried to stop it, to will the chaos away, but the destruction continued, growing louder and more chaotic. Through the fire and smoke, I saw her. She stood there, her posture unwavering, her chin slightly raised as if she were daring the chaos to touch her. Her eyes locked onto mine. It was as if she was both part of the destruction and somehow above it. She set her lips in a slight, almost imperceptible curve, not quite a smile, but something that suggested she knew more than she was letting on. The firelight reflected across her face, casting shadows that made her seem ethereal. The meteor slammed into the ground, throwing up clouds of dust and fire. But she didn't flinch. She wasn't angry or frightened, just calm, almost eerily so, like she had already seen all of this unfold and knew exactly how it would end. Her eyes held a mysterious intensity, as if they were looking through me, seeing far beyond the chaos. The ground cracked beneath a jagged, violent rupture that sent a tremor through my body. The silence around her seemed to grow louder, cutting through the roar of destruction. Before I could react, I felt a sharp jolt yank me upward, as if unseen hands had grabbed hold of me. The world shattered into fragments, the chaos crumbling into a void that swallowed everything. I woke with a gasp, my chest heaving. The room was dark and sweat clung to my skin. I sat up slowly and reached for the journal on my nightstand, fumbling for the pen. My hand trembled as I scrawled every detail I could remember. Mountains, flight, moon, meteor shower, woman. Paused, the pen hovering over the page. Her face lingered in my mind, sharp and clear. I hadn't spoken to her, hadn't even thought to. Why hadn't I? Who was she? I set the journal aside. The field of grass, the meteors, the woman, they were gone now, fading in the distance. But her presence stayed, pressing at the edges of my thoughts. For now, that didn't matter. I had done it. I had lucid dreamed. A smile spread across my face as a sense of triumph washed over me. The frustration and sleepless nights had finally paid off. I felt a rush of excitement, a giddy sense of pride. I knew she might return, but I wasn't afraid. I was ready for whatever came next, and more than anything, I was just happy to have finally succeeded.